everybody. We are back with a brand new episode of Unfinished Business. And yes, I am looking very busy in my outfit today. We are here with I believe it is the March issue. Yay, we made it another month. So we are happy to be here and bring you another new episode. Oh, we've got jam-packed news. We got jam-packed trailers and reviews. I know you're waiting to see what are we going to review. But first, let me introduce my co-host, André Joseph of AJ Epyx Productions.
Konnichiwa.
Yes, konnichiwa. And let's start getting into this because we have a lot to talk about. First up, the Muppets Mayhem, which is the band from the Muppets or Muppet movie, whichever you came into it as. They're getting their own musical series from Disney Plus. I know I am always been a big fan of the Muppets from just growing up, so this is great for me. I mean, obviously can't be under Jim Henson's because he has passed, but I still think, Muppets still has legs, if you get the right people in charge, I might be one of the few people who didn't even mind when the Muppets had their night sitcom on Channel 7 or ABC. Mm-hmm. It wasn't the best, but at least it was trying to be something different. How do you feel about this, André?
No, it's another attempt to try to get the Muppets relatable to today's generation of kids. It's been hard because I feel like every time there's a new Muppet project, there's a little bit of success and then they kind of pull back, like when they had the new movie, then they did the sequel. The sequel didn't do so hot. They tried to do that Office style TV show for ABC. That didn't really last long. So, I mean, I hope this one's successful. Although personally for me, even though I don't have kids yet, I would love to see like a new Muppet Babies, not the one that they have now, but like, let's bring back the old Muppet Babies because you own Star Wars, you own all those other properties that, they couldn't get the rights to put on DVD because of all the footage. Why not pay up the money and let's get that on Disney Plus? The old Marvel made Muppet Babies.
I don't know. That's a lot of money to many different companies because they used a lot of clips. They were like, "Hey, we're not thinking about the future. We're kind of entertaining the kids of today."
It's Disney. They got money.
Oh, I know they have money. They're becoming a monopoly. And while I would love it, I just don't see it happening. We'll just all have to go about our own ways of getting those episodes. And, they are out there. Okay. So the next story, this isn't really a story, but Bill Murray in an interview said that in the 1980s, he had just mentioned to Eddie Murphy about starring in a Batman movie where Eddie Murphy would play Robin and directed by Ivan Reitman. But it was quickly kiboshed because Eddie Murphy insisted that if they were going to make a Batman movie, he wanted to play Batman. And so, and that is as far as the conversation went. I like the idea. It definitely would have been different, but I don't know, like, again, with that team combined, were they more thinking like a superhero movie, or were they thinking more like 1960s, Batman, Adam West, campy type more? Considering, they in the 1980s, they were making movies and, more popular as comedians than anything else.
So I'm thinking about the context of that period because I know one of the initial drafts for Batman was written by Tom Mankiewicz, who wrote a number of Bond films. He also was the creative consultant on the first Superman movie. So it was possible back then because the Adam West series was more well known to the public at that time that maybe that's what they were going in. They wanted to make it more comedic and campy, but with the 1980s kind of style. And I know Joe Dante was going to direct at one point, but he was too much into the Joker story that they said, well, I'm not really big on the Batman thing. And then they just decided to dismiss him. It was better what we got, with Burton and Keaton in the role. But I think if this was coming off of Superman 3, I don't know if it would have worked that well. Maybe it would have made money because both of those guys were at the top of their game, but I think it just wouldn't have reached the level of the success the Burton film had.
I think if it had been made, and let's say Eddie Murphy got his way to be Batman, Bill Murray has to either be the Joker or Alfred. Those are the only two roles, because he's not going to play Robin.
I could see Murray play the Joker. I could even have seen Dennis Quaid do it. He has that twisted smile of his.
In the 1980s, though?
Yeah, did you see Inner Space? He could do it. Or, have Martin Short as the Riddler.
What is with you in Inner Space and bringing up Martin Short? No, Martin Short is nowhere near this project. Just because he's Canadian.
Max, reboot Inner Space or make a sequel to Inner Space.
Inner Space is where it belongs. Okay.
Call me Joe Dante.
I like Joe Dante, but Inner Space is not my favorite. Okay, next. Fresh off his award-winning success of award shows, Will Smith wants to team up with Michael B. Jordan to make an I Am Legend sequel.
So how is this possible when he's dead unless they use the original ending? That confuses me, unless, of course, they decide to undo his death somehow. But, this is my issue. I'm not against this movie having a sequel, especially if there is some angle that Michael B. Jordan in it. Okay, fine. But I'm having this issue now with Michael B. Jordan where I think the kid is tremendously talented. But why do you have to keep piggybacking on other franchises? Why, was Without Remorse that unsuccessful for you? Did people not go see Journal for Jordan? And, even with the power of Denzel as a director, he still couldn't draw. Come on, dude. You have to find original material that's going to bring the audience out instead of doing the same old, I'm going to do, Creed. Black Panther, I'll make an exception to, but then they're talking about remaking him with Thomas Crown Affair, and now this, and, one point Ryan Coogler wanted to Come to America sequel with him as Eddie's son. It's come on, dude, do something else original. You're too talented for this business.
I mean, he had that movie where he played the lawyer a few years ago, and
that doing the Matrix reboot with him, and that was for better and for worse.
Well, I mean, they're trying to do a Crow reboot, so since he likes franchises, it's hey, I'm available.
Well, we've never had a Black Crow, so why not?
Well, I just fear will there be many dead presidents jokes for the facial makeup. I'm just oh wow, Michael B. Jordan finally is in a successful reboot, and it's but he's got that dead president's makeup. Maybe Lorenz Tate can play the villain. Who knows?
I get the Hughes brothers to direct.
Okay, hey, I'm not against that. I like the Hughes brothers. My thing is, I agree with you because I was wondering, how are you going to do it when he died in this version of I Am Legend? So unless it's going to be some cheesy melodrama, I'm a ghost haunting your memories, it's please don't do that. And it's Will, you finally get the respect you have desired, and it's you're going to go do a sequel instead of something original? So I put it on his shoulders too a little, even though he doesn't go back to sequels as much as Michael B. Jordan. Mm-hmm. Okay. Our next story is about Sam Elliott, who had some interesting comments on his review of The Power of the Dog, where he didn't feel the movie was right because it shot in New Zealand, and I'm just okay, you can only control where you can shoot in locations. Don't forget it was filmed during a pandemic, and New Zealand was pretty much doing the right thing as far as taking people and quartering them off. And then the other thing is he feels like cowboys are supposed to be macho, and having, I guess, the main character kind of being macho, but then kind of being homosexual kind of destroys this cowboy mystique. Whereas I say, okay, I understand where you're coming from, but isn't it fair to say that this movie and this particular tale could be about, sexuality and a cowboy's homosexuality? It's not like this is saying this is the ultimate Western. They should all be like this. This is this movie. I'm like, you've starred in Tombstone and many other Westerns, Why are you picking on this one in particular?
So I love Sam Elliott. I think he's wonderful to watch every time I see him in a movie. Two thoughts come to mind, though. One is, wasn't Tom Selleck's Quickly Down Under shot in Australia, and it was still kind of like a revisionist Western type of movie? So where were the complaints back then when that came out? Second of all, wasn't Sam Elliott in Brokeback Mountain?
Was he?
He might have been. I mean, look, he worked with Ang Lee and he did the whole gay cowboy thing. And where was he in 2005 when that went on?
Okay, everybody flood the comments with telling us if Sam Elliott was in Brokeback Mountain. I don't quite remember him in it, but it could have happened. He is in a lot of Westerns. And here's my complaint with Sam Elliott. I love you as an actor. Hey, Roadhouse fan for life. But here's my question. You'll complain about this movie, but you won't complain about Bradley Elliott. Who the hell's Bradley Elliott? Bradley Cooper. He might as well be Bradley Elliott. He did an impersonation of you throughout A Star Is Born. He's radio silence from you. And
he pissed
That was
himself.
my main problem with that movie. It was like Bradley Elliott over here. I know his name is Cooper, but it might as well have been Bradley Elliott because that's how he played the role. Either Sam Elliott or he was doing a full-on Chris Christopherson impersonation. That is my comment. Sorry, we got a little bit away from Power of the Dog. Someday we will review Star Is Born, and I will let my.
There are a lot of great westerns made in Italy. All the Eastwood's Sergio Leone movies. How is that not considered a great western if it's not made in America?
Well, you could also include Lightning Jack with Paul Hogan. A great western.
We don't go there.
It was filmed somewhere. Okay. Now we're going to get into some serious stories more. Okay. Zoe Kravitz, who stars as Catwoman in The Batman, which we might be talking about a little bit later. She was told she was too urban to even audition for Catwoman in The Dark Knight Rises. On one hand, I think she should be happy because have you seen The Dark Knight Rises? But on the other hand, I don't see how it was fair for her to be called too urban, just to audition. It's like you can have it in your mind that, oh, I'm never going to hire her because we already got Anne Hathaway like chomping at the bit. But how is she too urban? And if no offense to Zoe Kravitz, but when I see Zoe Kravitz in a movie, the first thing that doesn't pop out in my mind is urban. She is African American, but it's not like I would say she stereotypically fits the role model of what I guess Hollywood would consider urban, or I guess too black, and which is what they're really trying to say, but they don't want to say it. I don't know. What do you think?
I'll save my thoughts about Miss Kravitz's performance in The Batman until we get to it. But okay. I gotta say, for that time, I mean, she probably would have been too young anyway to play the role back then to be, Catwoman to Christian Bale's Batman. That's just my personal opinion. But in terms of the race issue, yeah, I mean, look, it's got to come down to who has the best essence to capture that role, right? Mm-hmm. And she certainly, even at that time with the films that she was doing, should have been put into consideration, or any actress of that age, of a relatively appropriate age should have been considered, regardless of their skin color or where they come from. So yeah, it's kind of messed up, and she has a right to feel the way she feels, and now things are more diverse with how casting is done in films now. So yeah, I mean, it was a different time.
Well, I say they should have at least let her audition, because even if she didn't get the Catwoman role, she could have maybe played Juno Temple's role as like.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah, that at least that role. I mean, at the time, she was up and coming, having done like the X-Men First Class movie, being in Mad Max Fury Road. So it wasn't like she was somebody nobody knew. She might not have been the Zoe Kravitz, but at least she was like getting to be known. So, and unfortunately, on the heels of that, we also have Ryan Coogler, who was detained after trying to withdraw $12,000 out of his own checking account at a bank. I believe it was in Atlanta or in Virginia.
Yeah, it was a Bank of America.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why was because he wrote a note on the back of, I guess, the withdrawal slip, where it was basically all he was saying was, could you please count the money away, from the register, because he doesn't want to draw attention, because he is taking out $12,000, which I can imagine. But also, the whole thing was the clerk didn't even check to see if he had an account. Soon as she saw the note, she, immediately alerted the cops, and now there's viral video where you can actually see, the police footage where even they already have their hands on their guns when just asking him to put his hands up, and, where it's like rather extreme. And my thing is, okay, even if you suspected this, shouldn't you have checked to see if he had an account first before any of all of this? Because my thing is, obviously he's a client of the bank, and I mean, the reason he has on a mask, he's following guidelines. And he just happened to have shades on, so that means he's a bank robber. And they detained the two people who were waiting for him outside of the bank. And it's like, this is all ridiculous. And I kind of feel like he's in a rock and a hard place right now, because, this happened in January. This just came out. He's not saying anything publicly. I mean, you already have Black Panther Wakanda Forever with so many setbacks and controversies. So he doesn't want to draw attention to that, but he might not want to complain because he's afraid, will this cost me future jobs? Especially when he's on the heels of a major blockbuster. But also, it's just an inalienable human right that is getting taken away from him. But then I also think that the footage says it all. He doesn't really have to say anything. I don't know. What do you think about this whole fiasco?
Unfortunately, it's just the state of the country. It doesn't matter if you've had a billion-dollar hit movie and you happen to be the one that put it all together and you get all the accolades. You could still walk into a place dressed like you would normally dress, like maybe the way I'm dressed right now, and you give the wrong look or you do anything that seems out of character, even if it's just trying to withdraw some money, they're going to make assumptions about us. It's unfortunate. You're not going to hear about Steven Spielberg withdrawing like $1 million from his account and all of a sudden cops raiding his bank. It doesn't, like, even like if you think about it too, Michael B. Jordan went through a similar situation, I think a few years ago, where he tried to get into a club for one of Puff Daddy's parties, and the bouncers wouldn't let him in because they didn't know who he was. And this guy had been in Creed, he had been in Black Panther, but because he was a black dude, they just didn't put him in there. Like, that's just the way things are, unfortunately, until this shit changes, and it sucks.
Unfortunately, that is true. And I'm happy I don't bank at Bank of America, so I don't really have to boycott them at all. But I obviously am not doing business with them. Even if it was just that particular clerk, still, it's like we still get racially profiled, and we have an account there. And
that person should be fired immediately.
I agree. Well, let's move on to happier things now. We're going to go to trailers, everybody, and boy, do we have quite a few. Let's start off with the movie I know Andre's waiting for. Mobius is coming out next month, or Morbius, which I saw in trailer for today again. And boy, does it still look unappealing. André, are you going to see Morbius in theaters?
In all likelihood, I'll probably be dragged to see it. I mean, it's one of those things because now with No Way Home out and everybody's curious about the Spider-Verse now, the Sony-verse with Venom and Morbius, it's all been legitimized as an alternate universe from the MCU. So people are going to probably pay to see it, whether it's good or not. I'm just more curious about the Michael Keaton tie-in and whether or not there's going to be something where maybe when Doctor Strange, and spoiler alert if you haven't seen No Way Home, if it turned out where...
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah,
are you done?
Well, there's a certain thing that happens at the end of the movie that makes things reset. Let's just put it that way. And a certain character is not where he's supposed to be.
Okay, just to inform the audience, I still have not seen No Way Home, so that is why the theatrics. Trust me, when I see it, we will review it, though. It's coming. It's coming. And let me give you a hint. Once you see it available online, I will be there. Okay, so enough about Morbius. Let's talk about, since we're on this Marvel train, Doctor Strange and what is the full title?
The Multiverse of Madness.
Okay, first of all, now that I've watched the trailer again, I finally can hear the Patrick Stewart voice cameo. Come on. It's like, that is undeniable. Obviously, well, we all knew Scarlet Witch would have something to do with this sequel. The bad Doctor Strange, I just feel like since he already has a mustache, we can't do like a Spock with a mustache. So it's like, let's make my hair and all my clothes darker to show I'm evil. I'm excited for it because I'm happy to see Sam Raimi making another movie. And Blake Lively is coming back. So in her little cameo.
Blake Lively.
Who is it? Blake Lively? Is it Rachel McAdams?
Rachel McAdams.
My bad. Yeah, Rachel McAdams. Okay. Sorry guys, I'm not on my A game today, But I mean, I'm happy to see Chiwetel Ejiofor coming back, and he doesn't appear to be a villain this time. I'm happy. I can't get excited for too many Marvel movies at this point. I'm marveled out, man. It's like, you guys keep saying, wait till this one comes out. It's like, it's only been a few months since the last one or the last series. When do I get a break? I got other stuff to watch, not always Marvel. And I'm not talking DC either. There's other stuff in the world, Disney. Okay, that's my little diatribe. How do you feel about the Doctor Strange movie sequel?
Well, I agree. There's a lot more stuff than just Marvel. So yeah, I think people need to have more taste. But as a Marvel fan, I'm excited for this movie. So much of what we're seeing in the trailer is only scratching the surface of what I've heard is going to go down. Now, the Professor X thing, there's already the indication that this movie is going to have the multiverse not just be stuff that you saw in What If or alternate realities of the previous Marvel films in the MCU, but it's going to go way back to the X-Men films, the Fantastic Four, all the rights that they have now going back to maybe even the original Blade. And there's going to be some extra things that I can't predict because there's so many rumors and predictions out there of who's going to show up and what worlds we're going to see. But all I know is there's some stuff in this that is gonna not only blow people away, but I think it's going to seriously be a major game changer to the MCU. And there's a reason that Sam Raimi got hired to direct this, and you'll see.
I take it something with Spider-Man.
It's more than just Spider-Man, trust me.
Okay. I would say I am willing to go see this in theaters only because Doctor Strange, the first film, I didn't have like really any like faith in, really. I'll admit it. I thought, okay, this will be a okay movie. And it really blew me away with how much I enjoyed it. So I'm willing to give the sequel a chance, even though not the same director, but, you know, I feel like, you know, maybe this is, you know, maybe this can continue on with the legacy. Next we have the mysterious movie by Jordan Peele, Nope, which now we finally got a trailer, which still generally doesn't tell us what it is exactly about, but we get at least more scenes and a little bit of a hint more. I obviously am going to go see this no matter what, because I love Jordan Peele and I love his movies, even though Us wasn't what I was hoping for, but it was still good enough. And this film I'm willing to see because not only is he reuniting with Daniel Kaluuya, but one of my favorite underappreciated actresses, Keke Palmer, is in a starring role in this movie. And strangely, watching the trailer and watching it on the big screen today, it kind of gives up, like, this could be his version of Signs, it almost feels like. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I'm hoping it's way better than that movie, but I'm interested to see what this is all about. And what are your thoughts on Nope, or at least the trailer of Nope?
Looks very interesting, and yeah, it's got an impressive cast from what I see. It has definitely the vibe of a alien invasion film, and I'm sure it's going to be much more than that. I would only say, as just I guess somebody who does admire Jordan Peele's work, I just don't want him to become M. Night Shyamalan. I don't want him to be that guy who every time he has a new movie, it's overhyped, there's so much mystery, and then you see it and you get let down. I mean, Us, without a doubt, as good as it was a step down from Get Out. From everybody that I spoke to, it didn't have that same punch. And I want to have that punch here, but it could easily fall short if it doesn't.
Well, that's the thing when people have high expectations. I mean, that's a good thing and a bad thing because, you know, you're happy that you have that audience that wants so much from you, but then you can't probably reach the heights of what they want from you. I mean, look at anybody who tries to do a Star Wars, you know, at this point. You know, you can't please everybody. Next, we have Everything Everywhere All at Once, starring Michelle Yeoh, in a crazy movie where she's going through multiple dimensions and realities and multiverses as she's just trying to get her taxes done. And I think the most exciting part for us film geeks is that Data from the Goonies finally got a real big part in a movie.
Yeah, right? He's coming back.
As he plays her husband, or is he in this movie? This is my type of bizarre, surreal type film. You know, it's got some action sequences. You know, it doesn't make any sense. It seems kind of goofy. And I mean, I love the Daniels' first movie, Swiss Army Man. So I'm willing to take this ride wherever this is going. And I mean, and Jamie Lee Curtis in a film that isn't Halloween at this point, where she clearly is having fun in her role. I am really looking forward to this movie. What are your feelings?
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect when I saw the trailer. I thought it was just going to be like either a straight drama or a black comedy. But then as it played and I started to see like exactly what Michelle Yeoh was doing, I mean, I was definitely getting the vibes, not just of like a Jackie Chan film, but also, you know, like the stuff that Stephen Chow would do in Hong Kong. And so this definitely has, you know, very subversive vibe to it that makes me really interested to see, you know, could this be a big franchise for Michelle Yeoh in America? That'd be quite something.
Yep, we'll just have to wait and see when it is finally released. Next, I should have probably followed Morbius with this one. Deep Water with Ben Affleck and Ana de Amaris, and another erotic thriller from Adrian Lin. Look, Anna is very hot, so she belongs in this movie. Ben Affleck, I mean, it looks like in the movie Fatal Attraction for each of them. Like they're each stalking each other and they can't resist each other, even though it's nothing but bad news. But I'm tired of Ben Affleck being the Michael Douglas of the modern age as a surrogate for the audience of middle-aged white man. I'm tired of seeing him in not just this movie, but movies look, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve the work. But I'm tired of these roles for him. Like, do something interesting with your role. Like, I didn't see it yet, but maybe, that movie he made with Matt Damon, the period piece, maybe that's more the type of movies you should be making. Where it's a little more challenging or people don't see you in that role initially. Instead of, hey, middle-aged dude, all these chicks can't resist me. Like, really? Ben Affleck? Really? Understand, I do not hate Ben Affleck. It's just, I'm tired of this. Every time I see a trailer for him in a new film, it's just like, this just feels like the same role you've played before, only with a different haircut. And so, I don't know. Did you see the trailer for this?
I did, and I was, for one, happy to see Adrian Lyne working again. And
yes,
I have
will
a sense this could end up being his last movie because he's in his 80s now. I don't know how many of these he has left, and he's always working like once every decade now. It's not like he's pumping movies out left and right. I agree with what you say about Affleck. I think I was just getting those Gone Girl vibes from him. There wasn't anything new or different. He's just watching his wife, mess around with different dudes, and one of them gets murdered. So this isn't anything new. It would have been interesting with somebody else, maybe Ryan Gosling or somebody that probably would have been more outside the box
Chris
in terms
Evans.
of being like a creepy husband. Chris Evans would have been good. Yeah. Somebody, even closer in age to Ana de Armas, I could see why this is going straight to Hulu because it could be a big moneymaker with Affleck. I think they're better off just putting it on there. And, maybe that's going to be the future for Adrian Lyne if he does do another movie, is going to Hulu or HBO Max, because his movies are not going to play in the theaters in this marketplace. You're not going to do Fatal Attraction or 9.5 Weeks in the new millennium like this.
Oh, man. Old man Affleck. Okay. We're winding down with trailers. We have 2 more. One is 7 Days, which is about a Middle Eastern couple set up on an arranged date. And it's at the beginning of the pandemic, and they have to basically live together for 7 days, and where they really get to know each other, and and realize they might not be each other's dream mate that they were set up to be. I'm interested in this film because I like both lead actors from previous films, so I'm willing to give this film a chance. So I don't know. What did you think after seeing the trailer?
Well, I saw that the Duplass brothers were producing it, so it's got their style and their stamp of approval. Yeah, I guess it's going to be one of the first of many pandemic era films about people in quarantine and having relationships and the back and forth, and what it's like to be with somebody throughout that whole period and dealing with their personality in a way you've never done before. Am I going to pay to see it? I don't know. I don't. It's not my kind of thing, but I'll give it a shot. Just to review it here.
Well, I think we need more romantic drama comedies, that have an interesting point of view rather than, we've seen this 20 times before. So I'm looking forward to it. And now that I know the Duplass brothers are kind of behind it in some sort of way, I'm even more interested. Well, we'll see. Hopefully we'll review it on this show eventually. And did I save the best for last? Oh, no, actually, we have two more. Sorry. I'm going to go with the more commercial film, Bullet Train, starring Brad Pitt, where he plays some type of courier who has to take a briefcase and deliver it. But the package that he's supposed to deliver, everybody on this train seems to want, and they all seem to be various assassins, killers, spies, what have you. And I think the big secret they're trying to keep is that his contact, the voice we see in the beginning, is Sandra Bullock, because she has her name on the credits, and we don't see her in the trailer at all. Wonder who it could be as the last minute replacement for Lady Gaga. This movie, look, it's given John Wick vibes, but only goofier and more campy. And I'm happy Brad Pitt is having a kind of renaissance right now, because he's got his hippie look in this movie, his goofy wardrobe. He's doing action scenes, but he also seems a little bit more loose and comedic. So I'm willing to go see it. And I'm happy to see Aaron Taylor Johnson in more films, also. And Brian Tyree Henry is in this movie, with gray hair for some odd reason. But it's a film I'm going to enjoy, but I know at no point can I take this movie seriously. I mean, and it's directed by the man who directed Deadpool 2, which Brad Pitt had a cameo in. Blink and you miss it. So it just feels like everybody's comfortable here, But I'm going to go see it. What are your thoughts on Bullet Train?
It looks fun. I enjoyed actually watching that trailer and seeing that, it's Brad Pitt doing a rare action role, which, we've rarely ever seen him do other than Fight Club and Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I think there's going to be some weird tie-in with John Wick and Nobody, just because it's got that vibe, like you said. And if it's a bunch of assassins trying to kill each other, I almost feel like it's going to be in that same universe somehow.
Do you think it'll have any connection to the other Sandra Bullock Brad Pitt movie, The Lost City?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Like, is Channing Tatum gonna pop out at any point in this movie? He is the king of cameos, so who knows?
Well, if it's anything like his cameo in Hateful Eight, he just gets killed off in 10 seconds. Why not?
Hey, it's work. You were in the movie. It counts.
It's work.
I'm hoping it's more of his cameo from The World's End. That I would be like, you are the man, Tatum. And finally, on this happy note, is the unbearable weight of massive talent, starring the one, the only Nicolas Cage, playing himself, as to pay off his bills, he has to go to a crime lord's birthday party and make an appearance, and ends up bonding with the crime lord, while the FBI and CIA want him to help them bust this crime lord. And, the government agents played by Tiffany Haddish and Zach Barinholtz? I don't know. Or Ike Barinholtz. And I'm looking forward to this because, love him or hate him, I'm an unabashed Nicolas Cage fan. And I enjoy seeing him not only be crazy, but being crazy being himself. And I've watched the Red Band trailer and the, theatrical trailer, where not only do you see him with his, hair and the beard, but then he even goes back to classic Cage, clean-shaven, long hair. And I'm like, I am there. And one joke that really got me was when Tiffany Haddish asks the agent, didn't you see Croods too? And he's like, no, I'm a man. I watched Con Air and Ghost Rider. Now, see, that is classic Cage, even though nobody's going to mention Peggy Sue Got Married, but that is more classic Cage. But, I digress. How are you feeling about this project? And
This is going to be Nicolas Cage's being John Malkovich. That's the impression that I get for him to play himself, to put him in this extraordinary situation. I hope it's his comeback, to be honest. I think it's time to have that movie where Nicolas Cage is poking fun at himself and his long, illustrious career, and God willing, it'll get him out of the straight-to-video market.
I don't know. Well, he has to leave the straight-to-video market because by now he's had to have paid off his taxes.
That's what I believe, yeah.
But then again, maybe he just likes working with new talent. Maybe he's hoping this will be my Quentin Tarantino, and it hasn't worked so far. But maybe. I mean, the guy who directed Pig, I'm sure he's got another film coming up. So hopefully. And that is the end of trailers. And now we move on to our reviews. And I feel like first we should deal with Scream 5 or Scream. And because I will honestly say that is more the movie I have a lot to say about. If you've been living under a rock, another Scream movie came out this year. Part 5, the first film not directed by Wes Craven, directed by the directing duo Radio Silence, who made Ready or Not. This film is also not written by Kevin Williamson, but who is on as a producer. And this has the Ghostface Killer making an appearance again, killing all the kids in Woodsboro. But it seems like behind most of the murders, everybody is connected to one of the past victims or one of the past killers from the previous Scream movies. Just before I even start, because I'm going to let you go first, Andre. But before that, I'm just going to say, I am a huge Scream fan. I saw the first film on opening night. I have seen 1, 2, and 3 in theaters. Part 3 made me kind of quit going to see Scream movies in theaters because I didn't like it that much. So that when 4 came out, I was like, oh, it's just going to be as bad. I was pleasantly surprised when I finally did see it and loved it. Part 5, I'll get to my review. But tell me, Andre, what is your history with the Scream franchise, and what did you think of this movie?
Okay, so the first one I saw when it first came out on video after all the hype kind of died down, and I loved it. Then I saw the second movie in theaters with my dad, and I thought it was even scarier, although not so much today, but at the time I thought there were more scares, and it was a lot more fun to watch. The third one, I agree with you, was not very good. It didn't have a good twist. The whole idea of going to Hollywood and, dragging Sydney back for whatever reason, I wasn't too crazy about that one. And it's the one with the explosions. So it's like, you got to make the kills and the voice changer thing more credible. It's like, no, I wasn't feeling that one. And the fourth one was okay. I don't think it was the greatest sequel ever produced. It was a good way. Like, it's always nice when you revisit those characters, but I didn't feel like it was this amazing continuation of the films. Okay. So now this new movie, right off the bat, it's essentially cashing in on the sequel / reboot craze we're in right now, and specifically with the Star Wars sequels, in that you have new characters at the forefront. The older characters are kind of taking a back seat to lift up the new characters, and same situation. And they try to go back more to the tone of the original. So it's a lot more dramatic than it is the sequel were. I think that generally overall I enjoyed it. It had the scares, it had some unexpected moments, it had you guessing, even though I'll admit I kind of knew who the killer was right from the bat. And I think that it just was something that allowed you, like, it wasn't like you had annoying new characters. There were enough well-written characters to be invested to want to see them continue on in future films, if they have a good idea for the next one, because I don't know how you go forward after this.
I wish I could say I enjoyed it as much as you. I'm not going to say very disappointed, but just disappointed. And folks, spoiler heavy review here. Yeah. Okay. opening kill, kind of a cop out because it's not an opening kill. So they thought they were being inventive there. My problem was characters were interesting, but what this film lacks is the first film introduced, I guess, whatever you want to call Kevin Williamson speak, that took over teen movies for a while, where teens were used hyper intelligent dialogue and were so self-aware. And here they're not. They tried to be, but there's no witty dialogue. It just seems like scripted dialogue and base. You don't really get to know any of the characters before they start getting killed. It's like, oh, that guy's a jock. Or like even, for instance, oh God, okay, the bar scene. First of all, the bartender knows they're underage, but lets them drink there.
Yeah.
And then, come on, you might as well call the ex-boyfriend Scuzzy McScuzzy. Because he has a mullet, he has a jean jacket with no sleeves, and he's in the movie all of 2 minutes before getting killed. So it's like, why would we even care he got killed? Oh, another suspect off the list, who was our number one suspect. I didn't know who the killers were. Or, excuse me, oh, well, I said spoiler. So I didn't know who the killers were at first, but the movie doesn't do itself any favors when, Jenna Ortega's best friend automatically is having these verbal sparring things with Melissa Barham's boyfriend for no reason. It's just like, huh? And then this guy even though this is a worldwide franchise, he's never heard of this case or these killings. Whereas like, us in the audience, even we've heard of it, obviously. Happy to see Skeet Ulrich working, Yeah,
even if they went kind of the Dexter route with him.
Exactly, which that was a little cheesy, but I'm willing to forgive. I understand what they were trying to do. My man Stu gets no respect. But okay, like one killing, like, okay, they obviously do away with the character, the deputy or sheriff character from part 4. But I'm like, that just felt unnecessarily cruel because it's like they kill her off when she's trying to protect herself after being so overprotective all these years. And then it's like, you think he's going to discover his mom, but no, we're just going to kill him. It's just like, damn, that's fucked up, And then even at the party, the jock character is stabbed. They come to the party, in the car. That scares the killer off. We never hear from that character again. We don't know if he's dead or what. We don't even see him like being taken into the ambulance. Though his sister is like, she's like, hey, where's Travis? It's like, damn, we just gonna totally forget his character totally. She was his sister was my favorite character of the whole movie. I guess because she was the Dewey type character, but much more cool. Not Dewey, the Randy Meeks character.
Yeah, Randy Meeks.
Yeah. And I liked her character. I thought she could have, had better lines because it just seemed like she was so nihilistic and just didn't care about anything. So she came off more as like a Daria. And in the end, Mikey Madison, you met the same fate at the end of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You guys couldn't write a different like death scene for her. It's like, this is almost exactly the same thing. So now she's been in 2 properties by ex-Miramax filmmaker where she has the same fate. Like, really? And I mean, I like that the leads are more, Latina. So there is diversity in this film. I know why they had to get rid of Dewey, just to make this, we have to start getting rid of the originals now. Yeah. Nev Campbell just seemed like, yeah, it's a check. It's like, they like shoehorned all this information. She shows up, she does some stuff, and it's just like, but her facial expression never really changes. It's like, okay. And I was a little disappointed because, look, I understand, maybe the first 4 are Wes Craven, and, he definitely put his stamp of approval. But also my problem with Radio Silence is we've seen in their previous work, they're very good at visuals and, and horror comedy. And I just didn't feel like any like innovations were put in this film. It just felt basic. Like they were just going through the motions and really didn't put anything inventive. I mean, there were some tense scenes, like the hospital scene was very effective. But everything else, it was just like, we know what's going to happen. You know, I've discussed this with other people. Maybe my expectations were too high. Like, again, maybe I'm like those Star Wars fans where it's like, I expect a certain amount of respect and a certain amount of innovations, and this film didn't bring it. And also, maybe I'm aged out of this franchise because this is clearly meant more for the next generation of teenagers. And I'm like, you know, a Star Wars Han Solo over here, like, no, I don't like these new things. We can't go this way. So maybe it's just me. But for me, I can say as a Scream franchise fan, it was disappointing. It wasn't the worst. Scream 3, you're still there. But I was very, very disappointed with it. Not very, very, very disappointed with this film. But I will give it. Go ahead.
I think that, they were trying as hard as they could to honor Wes Craven. And when you do something like that, you don't have a whole lot of room to try to be in an idea or concepts to freshen it up. And I think they were afraid to do that, and they wanted to play it straight and narrow. Now, I do have to say one thing, which is, the whole ending, when you do find out who the killer is, it felt like they were just taking a bunch of tweets and putting together his whole dialogue to make it seem like, yeah, he's a killer because he's a toxic white man. Like they're definitely not doing anything all that new here. They're trying to cash in on this generation, and it's the Me Too cancel culture movement that's going on. That said, I think the next movie, whatever form it takes, I think we need to find out who is behind the voice changer. I know this is like a weird idea, and I know who the actor is that does the voice. But come on, how does every freaking killer in all 5 movies know how to use the same voice every time this guy's on the phone? There's clearly something going on there that they have to find the source of who's making this thing.
This sounds like Halloween 3, almost, this idea.
It would be different. It would be fresh for this franchise.
Well, if they can bring innovation with it, I'm for it. Is my problem also with this film. But see, maybe that was the problem, was too much hero worship of the original Scream and everything, and not leaving room to like naturally be yourselves. Because now it's like the directors are trying to impersonate, Wes Craven style, and it's like, but you're not getting it. So you might as well have just been better off being yourselves, because then at least you can chalk that up to some originality for it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just taking this too personally, the quality of this film. I mean, I guess I could easily walk away from it, except for the fact that everybody seems to overpraise it. That's what really bothers me about that. It's like, do you not remember the greatness of which the first Scream was? And you guys are sitting here like, 4 stars for this? I don't know. Like I said, yeah. Maybe I'm just taking it too personally.
The public just has a very short attention span these days.
Unfortunately, yes. So that will bring us what? Okay, let me put it this way. Would you recommend the movie?
Yes, I would recommend it.
Okay. I would give it if you're a fan of the franchise, see it. If not, you can skip it. So that brings us to our next film and the latest big release, The Batman. Not Batman, The Batman. Directed by Matt Reeves. This is not an origin story for once. This is, Bruce Wayne as Batman in his early days as Batman. And this plays more like a film noir and a detective tale, because you also get all the inner monologues or the narration that you would in more of a film noir film. You even have a femme fatale in the form of Catwoman, played by Zoe Kravitz. Here, Robert Pattinson plays Batman. And he's going up against his foe, or his first real foe, the Riddler, who is dressed like the Zodiac Killer. and even has a cipher. And the film is 3 hours long. And okay, I'll let you go first. What did you think of the Batman?
So I didn't go into this with the highest of expectations, and not because I'm like, a Ben Affleck fan. That's not the point. I'm not really big on his interpretation.
Okay.
And it has nothing to do with Robert Pattinson either. I'll get to him in a second. I'm just tired of every reboot's got to be about Bruce Wayne and telling that same story over and over. And I want something different. I want Batman beyond as real. Give me something other than Bruce Wayne. Now, that said, and putting that aside, this was a good film. The overall, as a detective story, as something that felt like, like David Fincher's Seven or Zodiac, it had a vibe. It was not a full-blown action picture, but really it's almost procedural. He's working with Gordon quite a bit. There's not a lot of Bruce Wayne action here. It's all mostly him in costume doing his detective work because they're trying to emphasize Batman as the world's greatest detective, as he was intended in the comic books. So I think Pattinson was definitely up there as one of the best Batmans we've seen on screen, but his Bruce Wayne was weak. And I think that was on purpose, with the idea that, Batman is who he really is. Bruce Wayne is the real mask that he wears. And even I have an issue with it, because if the idea is that he's supposed to not stand out as the Dark Knight in any way, shape, or form in public, I could take one look at that guy on the street and say, oh yeah, he's Batman. Look how dark and brooding he is, versus Michael Keaton, who was so awkward and kind of neurotic that you just look at this guy and say, this guy's too skinny and too small and too awkward to be Batman. There was a clear difference. And you can make the argument, well, it's a second year on the job, but I don't buy that for a second. And then I love Paul Dano. Colin Farrell really blew me away, and I think he should be nominated for an Oscar, because he was like the best thing about this movie. His Penguin was just like, you almost say like a Dick Tracy villain more so than anything else, but the way he did it was just incredible. Zoe Kravitz, to me, was not bad as Catwoman, but she's no Michelle Pfeiffer. I think they kind of pulled back on her a little bit. Even like with the fight scene she does have with Batman, she came off a little weak to me, and I don't think that served her well, even though I understood her purpose in the story and, the romance and everything else. It's just, it kind of fell short for me on her end. But other than that, and Paul Dano was great. Like I said, Andy Serkis playing Alfred, the sort of little twist there was cool. And then you have this context of, I guess it's also a criticism by many people, all the white folks are corrupt and all the black folks are not corrupt. The mayor, Gordon, and Kyle. So you do have that political aspect of it. But if you put that aside, it's a solid film. But I do agree it should have been cut down a bit. I think the 3 hours was way too long.
Yes, I definitely think 3 hours was way too long. I have mixed feelings about this film. It's entertaining. I'll give it that. I can't say that I would say it's a misfire, but I will admit for the first 20 to 30 minutes, I'm rolling my eyes through it, because they play the Nirvana song and I'm just like, seriously? And, you have emo Bruce Wayne, emo Batman, and I'm just like, come on. Having said that, Paul Dano did what he was supposed to do and expected. I was quite surprised, towards the end when we think he's figured out who Batman is, and he's like, oh, no, he hasn't. I thought that was very inventive. I don't have the same strong feeling you have for Colin Farrell as the Penguin. He was good, but again, I felt it was so Dick Tracy-esque that, I kind of got lost in that, where I'm just like, is he supposed to look like a warped version of Robert De Niro, throughout, but like I said, I enjoyed his performance. I'm interested to see where they're going to go with his series on HBO Max, with that. Pattinson, I had, he looks good in the mask, the scowl. He wasn't kidding when he, in an interview, he said he didn't, buff up or work out for the role. Because I was like, yeah, that suit is very padded. I had a little disappointment because he has all these arrows on his forearms. So it's sort of like when you saw RoboCop and you knew that blade was going to come out and be used for something other than computers. And here it's just like, you see all these arrows, nothing. He never does anything with them. So it's just like, that's a little disappointing.
That's another aspect of the film that I kind of liked, which was that the gadgets, he doesn't go crazy on them and he's not perfect with them. Like when he goes on the glider and he slides down the police station, he still lands on his ass. He doesn't land like a clean both on his feet. And even the Batmobile isn't like tight, like it's badass looking, but it's not necessarily like it's going to shoot missiles and be unstoppable. It's still kind of flawed, which I thought was fitting with him being an ace.
Well, I like the fact that how he had that little pause before he did the glider so that you could see he was a little scared to do it. But I will admit, while it was impressive him going through the sky, it was a little goofy, the camera angle of him going like, wow! It was almost like that. Like, come on, guys. I didn't really have a problem with Zoe Kravitz. I admit, like, I don't know if it was the way it was filmed, but her fight scenes didn't seem as interesting, as like, let's say when Batman's fighting, it was like, she's throwing these kicks, but you can't really tell if they're landing or really tripping anybody up. The Joker gang at the beginning, I mean, we got to throw in something there for a Joker reference. The whole little boy, mirror angle of kind of him as a little child, that was like, okay, I get it. You're not subtle. But like I said, for the most part, I enjoyed it, even with its kind of January 6 illusions, I mean, like I said, I think it's worth watching. I don't think it was the best Batman movie I've ever seen, but it's certainly not the worst. And I like that at least they're going for, something a little different than what we've seen. I mean, still better than Ben Affleck's Batman. But, my thing is, I am willing to see a sequel. Hopefully it's shorter. And I would definitely suggest this film. But like I said, I didn't love it as much as some people do. I thought it's good. I'd give it, if I had to give it a rating, 3.5 stars out of 5. It's better than average, but and I also like Matt Reeves as a filmmaker, so but I can't say, again, this was the best Batman movie I've ever seen, or the best interpretation. But it was fun, and a more gritty, realistic thing. I just wish, stop remaking Batman. Stop trying to come up with this character. Because at this point, we've had as many reboots as there are different Batman titles at this point. And it's just like, okay, if you're going to make a sequel to this one, make a sequel. And please don't reboot it 2 years later because you want money, You guys have seemed to have had no problem not rebooting Superman. So can we let Batman rest for once? Hey, I'll even take a Nightwing movie at this point. We've rebooted Batman so many times. I mean, we already had a Pennyworth series.
DC.
What happened?
Yeah, I think Warner's needs to just get their house in order. It's just all over the place with all these characters in different universes and different takes on every single DC character that's in existence. Just come up with one thing and stick with it and not overreact every time a movie doesn't fall to the expectations that they set for box office, because it just does more harm than good for the brand.
Exactly. And it doesn't help when you're introduced, when even before this movie starts, you're giving me trailers for all your other DC movies coming out this year with The Flash.
It's all been delayed. They've moved all these dates.
So it's like, you're giving me all this stuff, and I haven't even watched this movie. And I already know, let me guess, the Batman universe is not going to be the same as the Aquaman universe. Right. So it's like, or the Flash universe. So it's just
Listen, there were friends of mine. I remember when Batman Begins came out, and they legitimately thought it was a prequel to the Burton movie, and they were shocked when they realized, oh, Jack Nicholson doesn't kill Bruce Wayne's parents. Like, what movie am I watching here? You know, that's how crazy it gets. You're not informing the audience this is a totally new take.
I guess they're like, oh, we'll leave it up to the audience. I'm like, you know not to leave that up to the audience, unless they're true fans of it, to really do their research.
Especially young kids. They are very impressionable.
Yes, all they want to see is action and the Batman they like, or whichever comic book hero they like, and doing what they want them to do, and not these deep, emotional character studies of these. That's what books are for. So, do you have anything else to say about the Batman before we go?
It needed a better third act. I thought the third act was a little clunky to me.
It reminds me of Spielberg movie endings of the past, where at any point you could have ended this movie, but it keeps going.
It keeps going.
Luckily, I did not have a lot of water, or else I would have been like, first of all, it rains throughout this movie, and then you're gonna have an ending with flash flooding. It's like, Jesus, and I drank a soda. Like, are you trying to torture me here? But like I said, I liked it. I enjoyed it enough. I don't think it'll be on my top 10 movies of the year, but I enjoyed it. So that ends this episode's business. But as you know, out there, folks, we always have unfinished business. But before we go, I have to ask, have you seen The Game? If not, why not? Because it's fucking awesome. André, what movie would you suggest the folks out there go see?
Have you seen the movie The Worst Person in the World? If not, why not? Because it's fucking awesome.
Maybe we'll talk about that movie someday. And that is where we have to part with you folks. So until next time, we bid you adieu.